Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Casey here, it's here on Fly and Tackle. And today I'm going to show you how to tie the IDS Leech, Ice Dubbin Squirrel. Alright, so to tie this leech pattern, I've taken an RX NS 105 streamer hook, the down eye, in a size 10, and to that I have added a metallic purple 7/64 Pro Tire Entice brass bead. I'm going to tie this in a 10. I'll commonly tie it 12 through 6. I mean, you can go even bigger if you want to throw a massive chunk of meat out there for them. And if I was going to downsize this, I would definitely add a smaller bead, and vice versa with a larger hook, I would go with a bigger bead. From there, I'm going to lay down a foundation of 6/0 black uni thread, and I'm just going to tie that in right behind my bead. A few wraps over itself just to lock it in, and trim my tag. Just going to cover the hook shank so that we have something to build our fly on. And I'm going to go back to about where the barb would be on the hook. This is a barbless version of this hook. One of the things I really like about these hooks is they do have that barbless option, and I'm just going to have that hang down so it's vertical to about where a barb would be if this was a barb version. By all means, tie this on whatever style of hook you like. I'm sure you've noticed in these tying videos I'm a really big fan of these RX hooks, and actually this 105 streamer is a new model that or I shouldn't say it's new for us, but a newer model that we brought into the shop here. Really cool hook, nice long point on it. I don't think fish are going to fall off this hook all that easy. It's going to be a good one. Alright, so for the tail on this fly, I'm going to blend two different colors of marabou. Wapsi woolly bugger marabou in black and in purple. I'm going to go with a blend here. It's going to be, I mean, this is going to be majority black with a little bit of purple. I'd say, 2/3 to 3/4 black, with the rest being the purple marabou. And like you've seen me do with this material a million times on this channel, I'm going to pull it off the side of the stem. Lay down a little bit of the black. Take a small clump of purple. Lay that over top, lining up the tips. And I'm going to take a little bit more black and just pop it over the top. So essentially, I've just made a marabou sandwich here. Roll this around, manipulate it a little bit so it's blended. And now for the length of my tail, I'm going to go about 1 hook shank length. And we'll secure that in, again, kind of where that barb would be, or in line with where that barb would be. A couple of wraps. I like the length of my tail there. I'm going to trim the butts. I'm going to trim them at an angle, just so it kind of steps down. It's not just one big fat bump in the body. From here, just to add a little bit of flash, I'm going to take some hairline crystal flash in UV Midnight Black. Just going to grab a single strand, double it over, and just lay it down both sides of my tail. And we'll trim that to length. Now, patterns that have long marabou tails, they're very, very easy to foul. There's nothing worse than stripping your fly in thinking, man, I know I got that thing through the zone. Why didn't anything happen? Bring that thing close to the boat. You can see it swimming like a wounded bait fish almost with that marabou wrapped around. And that really sucks. It's very rare that a fish will take a pattern when that tail's fouled. So how I overcome this is I take my tying thread and I'm just going to bring it in behind my hook here, and I'm going to just make a couple of wraps over the marabou tail. I just do 2, and then I bring the thread back onto the shank of the hook. Now, you'll notice when you do this that it reverses the direction of your tying. So in order to overcome this, I'm just going to pinch that thread down, and I'm going to start tying back in that proper direction, and I'm just going to back the thread over itself just so that it's all secure. So I'm going to bring, so now that I've got that thread wrapped over the tail, it's made it much stiffer at the back of the fly, and the likelihood of that fly or that material fouling is pretty much slim to none. You got to do a real brutal cast to mess that up now. And not to say that I can't do it, but this will really help. So from here, got my thread back at the rear of the fly, and I'm just going to make a quick dubbing loop. Wind that thread forward. And now in my dubbing loop, I've blended some Hairline UV Ice Dub in black and some Official Pine Squirrel in black. On these smaller patterns, I definitely like using the Pine Squirrel. It's a little bit shorter material. If I was going to go to a larger hook, I would jump it up into some rabbit hair just for a little bit of added length and a little bit more flow in the pattern. Not 100% necessary, but if you just have one, go ahead and use it. But for these smaller patterns, I definitely prefer that Pine Squirrel. So I don't have a coffee grinder here to do this with, but if you just kind of pinch it back and forth, work out the clumps of that ice dub, work it all together, leaves you with a nice dubbing mix, enough for a couple of flies. So I'm just going to disperse this dubbing into my loop. And sometimes people will ask me, how big of a loop do you know to make? And I mean, I've done enough of these that I can eyeball it pretty good, but it's not the end of the world if you make it too big. I mean, even if you make it too small, you can always add more. You can do a second one. But if it's too big, you don't have to worry about wasting this. You can just pull that dubbing out of the dubbing loop. Here's a little bit that I have left over from another one that I can add back into the mix. I just pull that out, and then I can keep working with that material so it's not wasteful. We'll just keep feeding this in so that it's nice and even. Use dubbing wax if you find that it helps you. I personally don't like dubbing wax. It's just something that doesn't work for me. But by all means, if you like using it, go ahead. So I've got my dubbing all in there how I like it. And we'll start twisting. Now from here, I'm just going to transfer my dubbing loop off of my dubbing hook here onto a pair of hackle pliers, and I just find this is easier to wrap. And yeah, you're probably wondering why I'm not using a rotary vise. By all means, if you've got a rotary vise, I've just never got onto that train. I mean, I know it's a very useful tool. This is just how I've always done it, and you know how fishermen are. Sometimes it's just tough to break old habits. One day I'll get there, but so I'm just going to palmer this little mini dubbing brush forward, stroking the fibers back as I go. I know having a rotary vise in this would make this much more efficient, but sometimes it's tough to teach an old dog a new trick. I'm stubborn. So now that I've wound that forward, I'm just going to tie that off right in behind my bead. A couple of wraps in front. Trim that off. And like I said, we'll save that little piece there, just pick the dubbing out, add it back into the pile, and it'll be good to go for the next pattern. A couple of extra wraps there, just to lock everything in. Whip. The second one for good luck. And I'm going to trim my thread. Now I'll take my Renzetti dubbing teaser, tease out that body a little bit. And there you have a very effective little leech pattern, the IDS. Ice Dub and Squirrel. So you can tie these in a variety of colors. I like this black and purple for deep water fishing in particular. These colors show up well, give a good silhouette. Even you can fish it in the shallows in low light, so in the evening. It would be a very productive fly. I'll typically fish it on a full sink. Not to say that you can't fish it on an intermediate and shallow waters on a bright day. Yes, it will work. But this color combination I find really shines in that deeper water. Again, tie this in all your favorite leech colors. Like black and blue would show up in that deep very well too. Red kind of disappears a little bit quicker in the water column, but you can fish it as a shallower presentation. Your olives, your browns, maroon would be another good one, but just a good sort of standard base pattern that you can manipulate to fit the conditions that you're fishing. This will also stand out in stained water as well very well. But hope you found this video useful. Hope you like the fly. Give it a try, add it to your box. Let us know how it works for you. But always we'll have the materials linked, and you can find them online, www.c-run.com. Come see us in the shop, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody.